Hello and welcome to this session on creating a module. How do you create a module? As we mentioned, a module is just a basic Python file. Typically, it will be filled with function definitions or class definitions. And as you can see in the code on the right, there's a definition of the function readDeviceInfo, which reads lines from a file, saves the device info, and returns device list. There's also a print device info, which does something similar, but printing out the devices in the device list. One thing to remember about functions that we've discussed before and is still true, variables have a scope of within the function only. And so variables which are defined within this function are visible only within that function. There can, in a module, be code that is not part of any function. This is a unique situation. You may want to do it at some point in time. It's not the common way of doing things, but we list it here for your understanding. If you do have code that is not part of any function, that code will get executed the first time the file is imported from some other application, and it will be executed just that one time. Hello and welcome to this demonstration on separating your code into Python modules. In our directory, we have a number of files, but the one that we want to consider first is this one, which is the original file called old-main. What this file will do, it's a Python program that will go out and read devices from a devices file, as we've done in many of the other examples, and it will connect to them and gather the interface information and print it out. If we were to run this, we'll type in Python old-main. We can see it run, and it's connecting to each of the devices in turn. You can see it connected to 10.30.30.3. If we go up a little bit, here's its connection to .2, and here's its connection to .1. So it has gone out and connected to all of these devices. If we look at this code, then we can see that this file has gotten to be very long. It has a class definition for our base networking class. It has a class definition for our subclasses for network device iOS, including methods for connecting and getting interfaces. And we have also defined a subclass for network device XR, which is also going to have methods that are overridden for connecting and getting interfaces. We can also see in this file that we have utility functions that we can call to read device information from the file and to create our network objects. And we have a function to print this device information. Our main program will call read devices info, passing in the name of the file. It will have the devices, the device objects put into devices list, and then it will iterate through all of those devices and we'll connect to them, we'll get the interfaces, and then we'll print that information. So this is what the program actually looks like, and as you can see, it's very large. In fact, in general, good practice for developing software is that you want your files to be 1 or maybe 2 pages at the most, and this is getting close to exceeding that limit. So we're going to want to separate this into Python modules. How can we do that? Well, if we go over here and we look at all the files again, we will see that we have already done this, and we've separated the device class code into device class devclass.py, and we've taken the utility functions and we've put the utility functions into util.py. Let's go over here and we will look at what these files look like. So we're going to look at dev class first, devclass.py. This is where our device definitions are, and as you can see, all this is a set of all of our class definitions. It's regular Python code. There's nothing special about it. This is our code for the base class that we saw in old-main that's now been put into devclass.py. Here's our network device iOS, And in this situation, we've actually gotten rid of network device XR because we're not actually using any XR devices. So we see that we have the base class as well as the important subclass, which is network device iOS. Let's look at the util module, because the util module has our read devices info and it has our print devices info. Now, one thing that's interesting here, when we are going to be creating our network device iOS devices, and you can see we're only caring about iOS devices here for simplicity, when we create them, or even when we create a base class device, then we're going to need to be referencing our dev class module. And the way that we do that is we have a statement here at the beginning, import dev class. You've done imports before for standard Python library functions or for others that you may have added. Now we're creating our own library modules. This is our dev class module. And in order to reference a class from the dev class module, we will specify dev class.network device iOS. So this is the utility function to perform the creation of these network device objects after reading through the file. As you can see, it returns the devices list, and here we are printing the information. Now we'll have another Python module, which is really just main. So main.py is going to look just like the main portion of the code looked in the original old main. The difference here is that we will have to import our utility module because we are going to be referencing our utility module directly, util.readDevicesInfo. So from here, we're able to call readDevicesInfo, and then from here, we will be able to print devicesinfo. If we go over here, we should be able to execute this by typing in python main.py, and the result should be exactly the same. And as you can see, we've gotten information from 10.0.0.3 as well as from 10.30.30.3, 10.30.30.2, and 10.30.30.1. So we've successfully moved our code around in order to organize it better. We could possibly allow our code to be shared with others by putting it into modules. There are many advantages to doing this, and as your programming ability grows and your programs get larger in size, you will need to be using Python modules. And this is a good example where we've used them both for containing code relative to Python classes for network device objects, as well as for utility functions.